Well, last night Stephen Colbert had some fun with what David Axelrod calls a compromise, and I guess you can find your own appellations for it. Take a look.
Yesterday, the Bush tax cuts were extended for everyone. After 8 weeks of fighting, Republicans and Democrats finally showed bipartisanship in that Republicans offered partisanship and the president agreed to buy it.
A new term is born here, and there's a lot of Democrats not happy with this deal at all, Amy.
That's right. But in the end, do they want to have a weakened president? If they vote against him, and I'm sure that's what Vice President Biden is going to talk about right now, if this president loses here, he's not going to have any stature going forward. Right?
Well, we're joined up from Capitol Hill, where all the action is today. David Drucker, who is with the newspaper Roll Call up on Capitol Hill. And David, how big a problem, in your judgment right now, is the problems that the president has with his base? Do Democrats have enough support for sinking this to actually make this interesting?
I think right now, Rick, it's 50-50 in that, first of all, I don't think the president's done a very good job of selling this plan. He came out, basically said it was a lose-lose and something he'd rather not do, but oh well, we have to do it because the alternative's worse. And that doesn't help your cause when Democrats are already going to have a problem with it, and there are some outlier Republicans that, if given enough time, can start to poke holes in it. And so I think the president has a bit of a job to do. When you need support, you don't want to poke people in the eye. You need to massage them. You need to work with them. But clearly at this point, the president's all in. And I think failure to get this thing done before Christmas, before the end of the year, once you've presented it to the American people as a possibility, would be a very big problem. It's worse than not addressing this at all.
Well, and David, let's then talk about the folks on the right. We're seeing, obviously, Jim DeMint coming out saying that he's going to try to filibuster this. We're hearing from the Club for Growth that this is an unacceptable deal. How significant is a potential revolt on the right?
Right now, I think the potential for a revolt among Republicans is low, but the longer that this bill or this deal hangs out there, the better the chances increase, because it gives more of a chance for the Republican blogosphere and some of the talk radio commentators that are not happy with this to pound on Republicans about potential primary opponents in 2012 and things of that nature. I think it's notable that Senator DeMint's opposition has been muted in the kind of rhetoric and the style that he has used. Usually he is very blunt, doesn't mind throwing around some invective, but he, first of all, held his fire initially because he found it advantageous that Democrats were beating the heck out of each other, and has now come out against this, as you said, but is not using the usual words and phrases and style that we're used to around here when Jim DeMint really doesn't like something. So I think Republicans can still be brought along, but you don't want this hanging out there too long.
David, as you know, the White House has had a tenuous relationship from the start with Democratic leaders on the Hill. A lot of sense that he's out for his own good rather than the good of the Democratic Party more broadly. How is this likely to impact those relationships? A lot of Democrats feel like they were cut out of this. This negotiation happened without their participation. It was really Republicans who were at the table with them.
Yeah, well, get used to it. You know, if they're not happy now, wait till you get to January and the rest of next year when you have a
But that's just it. I mean, I think the view that he gave so much while Democrats still control Congress, what's he going to give when Republicans?
Well, that might be their view, but I think they're not really living in the real world. I mean, I think when you look at what happened on November 2nd, it wasn't just all about the economy. There was a large unease in the country, a country that is slightly center-right, not slightly center-left, that this Congress and this president had gone too much in the direction that they didn't like. And so I think that what's hurting the president here is not so much that he made a deal with Republicans. I think what's hurting him is the manner in which he went about it. He announces a deal before Democratic leaders have a chance to go vet it, and he announces it in a way that really pokes them in the eye. And he also set himself up for this kind of a reaction after showing no signs over the previous 2 years, and in fact further, going back into his campaign, that he would ever compromise on this particular issue. And so to sort of back himself against a wall for a couple of years and then all of a sudden go the other way, it was probably startling to them. And I think also, if you're going to do this, don't be I'm looking for the right word here, but he was antagonistic
Almost a
towards
poke in
members
the
of his
eye.
own party and say, look, all he had to say was, look, I know this is a tough one for us to swallow, but we're doing this for the American people. I know it's tough, but I really need your support. Thank you. And instead, he goes on a tirade against liberals and a tirade against Republicans, and he also describes the deal as awful. Instead of saying, I think this is actually pretty good, he said, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, but oh well. I mean, that's not how you sell something.
Exactly right. All right, David Drucker from Roll Call. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us from Capitol Hill.
Great to be here, guys. Thank you.
And Amy, what's fascinating, I think we saw shades of the Obama we're going to see over the next 2 years. We saw him moving toward the center in a very explicit way and try to make appeal toward a much different group of voters than have been his core base of supporters.
But I do think that David had a good point, which is you also have to be able to sell that to the American public. He had his bully pulpit. Here was his chance to go above the petty partisan and to the public, and I don't think he did that.
All right. There you have it. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow. I have no more jury duty to keep me away. Twitter.com/Rick Klein, Twitter.com/Amy Walter. Thanks.